So using a cherry wood block allows us to get a nice symmetrical shape on this gather. I'm creating a neck, which is where the vessel is going to actually come off of the blowpipe. Blow, Michelle?
We're making some vases today. I've got some color laid out, and what I want to do is kind of describe the differences to you. These are the colors of the body of the vase. I've got 4 colors here that are going to be decorative elements, but this is the main body color. So this color I need a lot, and I want to make sure the tray is full. If you look at it closely, you can kind of see it's a purple. It's a super vibrant purple. It's going to be beautiful. The other color we're going to use is a cobalt. And what I like about cobalt is, for video's sake, you guys are really going to understand the heat, because when it's bright orange, or when it's hot, it's bright orange, but when it cools, it's this beautiful cobalt color. So this is probably the first one we're going to do to really show what type of heat we're working with. What I've got here are some of my favorite colors that give a metallic sheen to the glass. These are only going to be decorative accents. They're going to be trails on the glass, which means we're going to wrap them around the piece. This looks very dark, but it's this really cool metallic color, because when you change the gas air mixture, it turns to this like metallic-y, blue, purpley kind of silver thing. And depending what your base color is for your vessel, it looks amazing. And then these two are the same color, but what I've chosen is 2 different textures. This one is a very fine, almost a powder, and this one is chunks. This one, when you add the chunks and make a trail, sometimes it looks like brush strokes, like paint strokes. It's really cool. I'm going to be the assistant while making this piece, so I'm going to be dipping into this when the time is right. These 3 colors are what we're going to use for trails. And when the time is right, I'm going to move them to a different marver, so I'm really efficient with my heat and how I bring my bit. These colors here are what we're actually making the vase with today. Now it looks like they're so similar. Like these 2 look so similar in color. They're actually very different. There's only so many colors you can make in glass blowing, and when they're crushed up, we apply them to the surface, and each color is different. So this is a mixture of different metals added to the glass. We're gonna dip our hot glass into the bins, and that's when it gives us the color on the surface. So it's clear glass we start with, which will be glowing bright orange. Then we dip into these trays to get the color only added to the surface. Always when putting color tray out, you want to wipe the marver. One of these little specks on the marver and you're not expecting it, your whole piece has a freckle in it that you weren't expecting. So it's very important as the assistant's job to make sure the tools are ready to go, marvers are clean, and as an assistant, you're always thinking 1 step ahead of who you're working with, so you set it up perfectly for them. All right, that's the color. Now we're ready to get started on the piece. Our tool's clean, you're good to go?
We're going to be doing a particular type of flutter vase, which is a gorgeous, very functional vase, probably between 10 and 15 inches tall. They're going to have an undulating, beautiful lip on the top of them that when you put a full bouquet in, they actually fall out and place themselves perfectly almost every time.
Start, yes, and you're doing the color. Go for it.
Yeah, so I'm going to be gathering up some molten glass, and this particular series of vases is multiple gathers of glass. So I'm going to gather 1 gather, and I'm going to add the color, which Michelle has very strategically placed out here for us. I'm going to add that color onto the first gather. Then I'm going to gather over that and encase the color in between 2 layers of crystal, so that it gives it a very beautiful look to it. This is our clear crystal tank. It's gorgeous. We've been melting this thing for a very long time. We've got a really beautiful batch of glass in here. It's cooking at about 2,100 degrees, and I've got my blowpipe preheated to a nice cherry red to gather this first gather. And it's pretty much just like gathering honey out of a honey pot. So I come over here. I want to make sure that most of the glass that I have is off the end of the pipe as much as possible, so that I use the correct amount of glass. So I use the edge of the bench here to draw the glass out to the end of the blowpipe. And amazingly enough, I referred to the glass as honey. It's got a look of honey right now, and it's only orange because the glass is 2,100 degrees. Because it's so hot, it allows this other pre-mixed, beautiful candy pink to stick to the surface of the glass, so I can melt it in and get a gorgeous layer of this pink. So I'm melting that into the surface. I'm gonna do multiple layers of the pink. And if the glass wasn't as hot as it is, it wouldn't be able to pick up that colored glass that we've pre-mixed. Now pink, most of the pinks that we use are made with the earthly mineral gold, which is a pretty cool fact. All of the periodic table elements affect the glass differently, and that's where all the colors come from in the glass. So that's 2 nice layers. I'm gonna go for a 3rd. The whole time keeping the massive glass off the end of the blowpipe so I can be efficient and use the correct amount of glass to color this vase that I'm creating. So once I get this completely melted in, I'm gonna roll it on the steel plate, which is called a marver, and I'm gonna shape it into a shape that's going to accept a bubble that I'm gonna blow into the end of the blowpipe. It's a pretty unique way to start the first bubble when you're blowing glass. And the way I do it, and a lot of glass blowers do it, is you blow air into the blowpipe and cap it with your thumb. And then just holding that pressure in there, the 2,000-degree glass hits your breath and steams from the moisture in your breath and blows the first bubble out. Watch how this goes down. You're gonna start to see that bubble creeping out. And there you go. Now we've got a hollow vessel of glass. I'm preparing this particular first gather to the right shape to go in and take another gather of crystal over the top of this. And that's what I was telling you, that's gonna encase it in between 2 layers. So one, the extreme heat coming out of our heat source here won't affect the color when it's sandwiched in between 2 pieces of crystal. It's very important to keep the color vivid and beautiful and very bright, is to make sure you protect it with a layer of crystal over the inside and the outside. And I know I'm feeling it right now, right here. This pipe is getting way too hot for me to handle. If I touched it right here, I would scorch my hand very, very badly. It's pretty much, I can't even touch it right here. So we're gonna go over to the color cooler and we're gonna cool off the pipe with this pipe cooler. And this will show you the exact amount of heat that's on. The importance of cooling the blowpipe, especially when you're making a bigger piece, and this is going to be a decent sized vase, is that the closer you can hold the piece closer to the end of the pipe, the more leverage you have. The glass doubles in weight every foot away from your body, so if I hold the pipe and hold it out here, it's extremely heavy, but if I hold it close to my body, it's a lot easier physically. Going in for our second gather, you can see this is cooled down nice and stiff, probably about 1,500 degrees. There's a nice, beautiful coating. Michelle's got the pipe cooler going here for me, which is great. Now we're gonna start the process. I purposely let the first gather get nice and cool, about 1,500 degrees, so that I could go in and have enough stability to gather the second molten gather of glass, which is 2,100 degrees. So now I'm making sure that I'm allowing the core of this double gather to become the same temperature, so when I blow the bubble out, it blows out nice and symmetrical. So using a cherry wood block allows us to get a nice symmetrical shape on this gather. I'm creating a neck, which is where the vessel is going to actually come off of the blowpipe. Blow, Michelle? So rolling it on the steel plate chills the surface of the glass, allows me to control how and where the bubble blows out. Blow, Michelle. Okay, that's good. So I purposely left quite a bit more thickness in the bottom of this piece so that when I heat up the bottom of it, the gravity will pull that piece out when I use gravity to lengthen it. So just heating the bottom of the vessel. So when I come out and I hold it towards the ground, this piece is going to naturally fall out in a very beautiful, elegant teardrop So I'm going to use a little bit of centrifugal force. I'll step back and you watch how this goes down. Look at that. It's got that nice, beautiful shape of the fallen out glass, which is pretty much Mother Nature's natural instinct. Okay, blow. All right. Looking good, thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna have to flash it for 1 second. All right, so this is the transfer where we actually take the punty rod, which is this solid rod Michelle's got in her hand, and we attach it to the bottom of the piece so that we can hold the piece from the bottom of the vase and finish the top of the vase.
So right now the bottom is very hot. I want to concentrate the heat on the top. So I've got maybe 1/3 in the heat, but I still need to keep the bottom warm. So to do that, it's called flashing. You're gonna see me push the piece in all the way, and I'll be able to do that. But right now it's still got too much movement on the bottom half, so I know I have time. If I turn too fast, it's gonna spin it open. So I'm moving the same rate that the glass is.
So what that does is that actually thins out, by blowing air into the top of this vase, it thins out the glass at the top of the vase so that we get a gorgeous undulation when we spin it out and let it form itself into the shape that we're talking about.
You need the diamonds and the rollers.
Yep, I'll grab it. You ready?
Yep.
All right, I'm ready when you are.
So Chris is monitoring the thickness of the glass as it goes on, and he's controlling it. The rollers help spin the pipe easily, but voila, there is a trail all the way on the top.
So once we put that trail, which is that beautiful iridescent color we talked about, onto the glass itself, around the exterior of the vase, we have to make sure it's melted in and nice and hot so that it doesn't want to release and pop off the side of the vase at a later time. So you really got to make sure you melt it into the surface real good. So I got it about as hot as I barely could without the vessel collapsing on itself, which means that that glass is melted in really good. We're going to go back in for the reduction. I'm going to spin it out now, but you can, it's right back in the corner. You could go back there now. And it's the regular gas valve. You're gonna open it up all the way when I say so, but not yet. Because this is gonna be the real beautiful part of this process, you guys, is using centrifugal force to allow the top end of this vase to expand, and then right at the exact calculated moment you want to and this perfectly gives us this nice shape at the top of the vase. I think they were making vases like this in the Egyptian times. All right, Michelle, when I say in a second, I'm gonna have you give me that reduction. Not quite yet, but this will be the last heat, so I'm hitting it nice and deep. Go ahead and turn it on. And now we've got a nice iridescent reduction on the surface. I opened up those fluttered, undulating sections just a little bit. I almost feel like I'm gonna want to let a little bit more on there. You're gonna see how this is going right now. Watch this.
How he knows this is right is you can kind of see some flames shooting out at the top. Once he's satisfied with the color, we're gonna take it over to the knockoff station.
Looking in the annealing oven from when we made these beautiful vases the other day. It was quite the blow slot. I loved it, and they turned out great. We specifically did these bouquet vases, which is something that we've been doing for a really long time. This is actually a beautiful fuchsia pink, which is made with the earthly mineral gold. Gold makes pink and gold makes red. It's one of the most expensive glasses. But this is one of our functional flutter vases, we call them. When I say functional,
They're functional because they hold a bouquet so beautifully. I mean, they really do hold a bouquet. And if you look at the way, you don't want them too big. Traditionally, it's a 1/3, 2/3 amount, so you're going to have a bouquet about this big. But when you drop the bouquet in there, it falls right into these organic undulations around the top. The unique thing about these is that one of the most important tools a glassblower uses is gravity, and these are formed with gravity and the natural properties of the glass. So you spin this piece out and you bring this out into a platter form, and then you hold it to the ground with just the right heat, and you let gravity pull all those spirals that I've put on here and the undulation happen naturally, which is just a beautiful process. Let's check out this purple one. This purple one's a little bit bigger, but it's just the same thing. Now, purple is a different earthly mineral that makes purple. Purple's made with manganese. And you can see this is the same shape, just about maybe 2 or 3 inches taller. But look at that top. That top is just gorgeous. And we used an iridescent metallic colored glass on the outside so it would highlight the colors of the purple as well as the pink. Look at those, and these are very traditional. They've been doing flutter vases in the Italian style of blowing glass on the island of Murano for probably close to 1,000 years. And it's not something that we completely reinvented, but I don't really know anybody in Metro Detroit or in the Midwest who's making vases like this. They're pretty one of a kind, but you could probably go back in the history books and find some pieces here made by historical companies like Vinini and Company, which is on the island of Murano. But they were in the oven, annealing oven, for about, I would say, about 18 to 20 hours. That's how long you have to anneal this glass to get it down to room temperature and release all the stress from the cooling. And they turned out beautiful. I mean, they're some of my favorite colors. These are very traditional Venetian transparent colors. So there you go, guys. That's a super exciting annealer reveal. Nice seeing you. Talk to you soon.